Hello, my name is Paul Markham, and it's a beautiful winter's day here in Perth, Western Australia, and I'm going to take my 1958 DKW out for a bit of a drive. Let's go for a ride. Triumph TR2 driving past, that's very interesting. This car was built by Auto Union, which was a conglomerate of 4 German car manufacturers. They formed a conglomerate in the 1930s during the Great Depression to keep so they could survive the troubles of the Great Depression. DKW was the budget car company in the group, and it was the one that was sold more vehicles than any of the others. It really was the prop that kept that company alive. Nowadays the only survivor of the 4 companies is Audi. That's something of a misnomer as well, because Audi is really just the rebadged version of DKW. Audi kind of got closed down in the mid-1930s. Didn't really have much of a presence. It was just kept on as a name, selling DKW or Wanderer products that were rebadged with Audi. This car is 1958. It's powered by a 3-cylinder, 2-stroke engine, 896 cubic centimeters. Delivers about 44 horsepower. Going to go the scenic route down to Fremantle, down by Swan River. Where was I? Right, DKW, because they were a motorcycle company to start with, had the most advanced 2-stroke engines around, and it quickly decided to put those engines into budget cars. The original cars that they started producing from 1930-31 were small 2-cylinder 600cc 2-stroke engine mounted at the front with front-wheel drive. That became their signature. They were the first car company to actually produce a car with front-wheel drive as standard. It was really only done as a budget thing because it saved the cost of having to run a transmission all the way back to the rear drive. It was quite novel in its time, and they were very, very popular sellers. The cars themselves were very, very simple. Steel chassis, and then wooden body, wood with the plywood and covered with the leather, or actually imitation leather. Speed humps on this road here. The very, very tight steering, very, very nice, easy to drive around these little obstacles. Handles very, very well in this car. The origin of this model is in the late 1930s, after the Volkswagen project was initiated. Adolf Hitler wanted to put a car in every German's driveway, and wanted a car that could be purchased, a modern steel car, not a wooden bodied kind of three-wheeler or some kind of baby car. He wanted a real car that everyone could afford, and that ended up being the Volkswagen project, which we all know how well that worked. That worked very, very well. Auto Union recognised immediately, as soon as that project began to show promise, that their market, the bottom end of the market, was doomed. So they decided to up the game a bit. Beforehand, they'd really never built steel cars. In 1939, they released this version. Slightly smaller, it was a little bit narrower, but it was almost identical to this car. It was supposed to go on sale in 1940. They began producing literature, and they did, the publicity photo shoots and all those sort of things that they do. But then the war started, so they shelved the project, intending that it would be picked up again when the war was won, which of course never happened. And after the war, all of Auto Union's factories found themselves on the east side of the German border, in East Germany. So they lost the designs and they lost all the original cars. 3 of them survived the war. One of them was shipped over to Australia, oddly enough, as war booty, and it was examined by the government. The Australian government in 1945 decided it wanted to build its own automobile industry, because we really didn't have one here. And that car got looked at as a potential way of actually kicking off the low budget car industry. But it was given up, and the government ended up sponsoring the General Motors Holden project. So the car ended up getting sold, but kind of just ended up circulating around in the East Coast, owned by a couple of people who did lots of strange things to the vehicle, replaced its engines and rebodied it at various times. So it got picked up in the 1980s and it went back to Audi, and then that's now their museum. We've got it on display. But the other 2 cars, one of them was in East Germany, it was at Leipzig, and the nationalised Auto Union company, which became known as IFA, that ended up in their hands, and then they reverse engineered the car to begin production in 1949. Similarly, in West Germany there was a body shell of one of these. They didn't have a chassis or an engine, but they had the body shell at one of the body factories. So they took that and they made some adjustments to the earlier wooden body cars chassis, and they mounted the new bodywork over the top of that. And so that ended up being released in 1950 as the DKW F93, but it only had the pre-war 2-cylinder engine in it, so it was quite an underpowered vehicle. But it looked really nice, as does this one. And yeah, from there they probably obtained a 3-cylinder engine off the East Germans, because there was still a connection between the 2 Germanys. Someone probably popped over to East Germany and bought a the East German version, and took it to back to the West. They reverse engineered it and ended up putting it in this. And this car came out in 1953, the 3-cylinder engine. 3 equals 6. What that meant was that it only has 3 cylinders, but it actually runs as if it was a 6-cylinder. It's 2-stroke, runs twice as fast, and all that sort of stuff. It's not really true, but it certainly was effective, you know. We're now in the middle of Fremantle. Pedestrians. Lovely day today. What are we, 15th of August? It's usually freezing cold here. It's supposed to rain like hell tomorrow, but today we have beautiful blue skies. It's, as you can probably tell by my dress, it's warm, very warm, in a car which doesn't have really great air conditioning. Everybody's out having coffee, Italian food. It is living the vida loca. So, yes, so they introduced this car virtually exactly the same as this in 1953. It had a slightly narrower front and a different radiator grille, but it was basically the same car. And that stayed in production until 1965. By that stage, Volkswagen had bought the company. Is this Auto Union DKW? They were rivals with Volkswagen. So they were keen to remove its competitor, and Volkswagen replaced the engine on the newer model, which was much more square. It's called the DKW F93. It had a 1300cc 2-stroke motor, which wasn't particularly good. 2-strokes are sort of limited in their performance to smaller displacements. Once you get to a certain size, you start needing fuel injection. You need things like that to make it run more efficiently, and that increased the it decreased the fuel economy of the car, made it more complicated to build, which then meant that you kind of lost the benefits you got out of a really cheap automobile. So Volkswagen stuck a 4-cylinder. Luke! Howdy!
You're German, are you?
No, but it's a German car.
My uncle had one of these, a convertible.
Yes.
Beautiful. 2-door convertible.
In South Africa or Germany?
Germany.
This car is, it draws South Africans, because there's a lot of them in South Africa, these cars, and never really came to Australia. There was about 10 that actually came to Australia. So, they're pretty rare here. Where was I? I was just saying about the DKW F102. They slapped a 4-cylinder Mercedes-Benz engine in it. They needed to break away from the image of DKW being a stinky 2-stroke car. So when they put the new engine into the new model DKW F103, they renamed it, rebadged the company as Audi, and that ended up being the beginning of the Audi company as we know it today. So basically, underneath the original Audi cars of the 1960s, they are all DKW technology. destination. So I hope that's been an interesting journey for you. It's been a pleasant drive for me. Lovely day, as I said here. I'll be driving around a little bit later as well. But that'll do for now. Thank you very much.